Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another review. So let's get into this new season of Love is Blind because wow, there's a lot to unpack. So first up, let's talk about Vic and Christine, our very first engaged couple of the season. They're cute, they're calm, they actually seem into each other, which is probably exactly why production shipped them off to Malibu instead of Mexico with the rest of the engaged couples. Because I mean, let's be honest, if you're not bringing chaos, tears, or a love triangle, Netflix is not paying for your plane ticket. I mean, I like Vic and Christine, but clearly they're not the drama couple this season. So let's talk about this Emma, Connor, and Mike love triangle. Now Emma, listen, she seems genuinely sweet, but Love is Blind is not the show for her right now. She needs healing, therapy, grounding, something. Every conversation circle back to her adoption trauma, her insecurities, her fears. She cries easily, she spirals quickly, and she's not ready for a relationship, let alone an engagement. Emma had two connections, Connor and Mike. Connor ended things, and because he was her number one, she defaulted to Mike. I don't feel like it's because she wanted him, but because she didn't want to leave alone. And honestly, she and Mike are not compatible. She doesn't want kids, and he definitely does, and communication between the two of them is honestly awkward. And the reason I say that is because when they tried to have a serious conversation when they were in Mexico, Emma kept laughing every 2 seconds, and I know it was probably because she was nervous, but it just was a little bit awkward. Now let's talk about the messiest storyline of the season, Kevan, Tyler, and Keya. Kevan should have never been on this show. He's not ready for a relationship, let alone a marriage. He kept giving Tyler these long "you're so amazing" speeches, but somehow couldn't choose her. If she's that amazing, why is it so hard to pick between her and Keya? And Tyler finally snapped and told him she didn't need another speech, she needed a decision, and she was right. And when she told Kevan that she needed a decision, he gave her a decision. He told her that he was choosing her, that they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and because she was obviously excited about this, she goes back into the women's lounge and she tells two of the other ladies that he said that he wanted to be with her exclusively. And when she told them this information, they tell her that he also gave a gift to Keya during their date earlier that day, and she was really happy after the date with him too. And that made Tyler feel some type of way because she doesn't understand why he would tell her that he wanted to be exclusive with her, but then he didn't break things off with Keya earlier that day. So she leaves. She decides to break things off with him and she leaves the date early, and obviously Kevan feels some type of way about this. He feels like Tyler is overreacting, but she doesn't feel like she overreacted. And honestly, I wish she would have stuck with her first instinct, which was to be done with Kevan, but after talking to production, she made the decision to go back into the date with Kevan and give him another chance. But then she ends up leaving again. She ends up leaving without even telling him she was gone. He goes back into the pods thinking he's having a date with her, only for her not to show up, and he's upset, and he goes back into the men's lounge and he starts telling them that, you know, Tyler decided to leave him, and they were kind of gassing his head up a little bit, making him seem like he wasn't in the wrong when he was in the wrong because he's playing with people's feelings. And I feel like Keya knew that, you know, because Tyler decided to leave, that Kevan was going to try to choose her only because Tyler wasn't an option anymore. So she goes into the date with him and he's giving her one of those "you're so great" speeches, and she allows him to ramble on before telling him that she's deciding to choose herself because she feels like he's not ready for a relationship. And honestly, she was right. I think her and Tyler made the right decision. I mean, why decide to go through the whole process with him when you know it's going to end and you both saying no at the altar? Now, Jordan and Amber also end up getting engaged, and honestly, they seem fine. There's not much to talk about when it comes to the two of them. There's no drama, there's no chaos, there's just vibes between the two of them, but Amber does have a child, so I'm curious how things will play out once they leave the honeymoon bubble. Now, Brittany and Devonte, this couple is absolutely not making it. Honestly, Brittany should have ended things in Mexico. Devonte should have never signed up for a show where you don't see the person before getting engaged, because this man clearly does not believe that love is blind. He admitted he's only ever dated white women, so I think he assumed Brittany was white. She's Latina, a woman of color, and she's beautiful, but the second they saw each other, you could tell neither was attracted. She thinks he's overweight, he doesn't like her skin tone, but at least Brittany tried. She kept initiating affection, and he kept giving her these little stiff grandma kisses and pulling away like she was contagious. It was painful to watch. And when she confronted him about not feeling wanted, he dodged the truth and made excuses. And the wild part, he looks biracial himself. As someone who's biracial too, I've never not been attracted to someone because of the color of their skin. That's weird behavior. She should have left him right there in Mexico. And then there's Chris and Jess. They seem genuinely into each other. They're calm, they're sweet, and they actually communicate, and I feel like they could probably make it, but I feel like there's probably going to end up being some issues between the two of them because I think they're in the honeymoon phase, but I think once they get into the real world with each other, that's where they're going to see where they're not compatible. Let's talk about Bree and Connor, because in the pods, I liked Bree and Connor together. Their banter was good, but once they got to Mexico, everything shifted. And when I say everything shifted, I mean everything shifted with Bree. In the pods, Bree actually chose Connor over Chris. She actually actually broke things off with Chris because she said that she had a better connection with Connor, but once they got to Mexico, it seemed like she didn't want Connor and she really wanted Chris. Because Bree suddenly seemed upset that none of the guys that she had connections with pulled her aside. She wanted a part 2 of the group meet and she ended up getting it, and the reason why she wanted a part 2 is because she really wanted to talk to Chris. And she did end up having a conversation with Chris, and honestly, in my opinion, she was way too flirty with him. She even went as far as to say that she still wanted to hang out and do things with Chris, and that Connor and Jess would just have to deal with it. I feel like Chris handled it perfectly because I think he was very respectful to both Jess and Connor during this conversation with Bree, even though she was being very flirty with him. It seemed like she even got annoyed when Chris said that he felt like her and Connor were good together. It's like she wanted him to tell her that she didn't think that Connor was the right person for her. And she was way more happy talking to Chris than she has been talking to Connor this entire time that they've been in Mexico. It's almost like she regretted her choice of choosing him over Chris. The thing about it is that after she has this conversation with Chris, later that night she has a conversation with Connor and she tells him that she could actually do a part 3 of her conversation with Chris. And obviously Connor felt some type of way because he also had other connections in the pods. One of his connections was Emma, but he didn't go up to Emma and make it a big deal that he needed to talk to her because they connected in the pods. But Bree is making it seem like she's really more interested in Chris. Honestly, if I was Connor, after Mexico, I would be done with her. I wouldn't even decide to go through with the full process of the show. Now let's end this video talking about Alex and Ashley. When Alex and Ashley met, they were all over each other. They looked like one of the strongest couples, but then Alex started showing his true colors. During one of the group meetups while they were in Mexico, Alex actually ended up pulling Brittany aside and having a conversation with her, and he tells her that Ashley is actually not his type, that he prefers women with dark features, and then in his interview, he said that he was really attracted to Brittany because she's actually his type. And he was actually being pretty flirty with Brittany during this conversation, but she was being respectful to Devonte and Ashley and decided not to flirt back with him. However, she does end up telling Alex during this conversation that she doesn't feel wanted by Devonte, and Alex tries to convince her not to settle for Devonte, which he is right. She shouldn't settle for him, but the reason why he's telling her this is because he finds her attractive. And during this conversation, he even implies that he's not going to marry Ashley, so what's the point of him dragging Ashley along through this whole process if he knows that she's not the one for him? And later that night, Ashley ends up having a conversation with him, and she ends up asking him if he was flirting with any of the other girls, and he tells her that he wasn't flirting at all, even though we know that he was definitely being flirtatious with Brittany. And Ashley ends up telling him during this conversation that she feels like he doesn't actually have feelings for her, and he lies to her. Instead of telling her that he doesn't think that she's his type, he decides to tell her that there's no problems between the two of them, and that if a problem does arise, he will come to her about it. But there is a problem. He doesn't find her attractive, so why didn't he just tell her right then and there? And it's like he knew that she wasn't his type from the moment that he met her and while they were in Mexico, so why did he decide to make things physical between the two of them if he knew that he wasn't going to end up with her? So to me, the same thing that I said about Devonte applies to Alex, because I don't think that Alex should have came on Love is Blind if he knows that love is not blind for him. He has a specific type, and if the woman that comes out of those pods is not his specific type, he's not going to want to be with her, so I just think it was no point in him coming on this show. So this season is messy, chaotic, and honestly entertaining, but also full of people who should have never signed up for a show about emotional connections. Some couples have potential, but a lot of them don't, and in my opinion, the only couple that I think is actually going to walk down that aisle and say I do is Vic and Christine. But let me know what you think about these couples so far, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.